Well, hey, rail fans and model railroaders. Welcome back to another episode of Getting Back on Track with Steve
and Roxy. So for the last few videos, we've been laying track, laying more track, and laying track again. It's been great, but now it's time to get some electrical to this track.
So the first things we need to do is we need to isolate the sections of track that lead up onto the swing bridge and going off of the swing bridge. We need to install some micro switches so they can control the power to that section and the power on the swing bridge. Because what we want it to do is we want to be able to open the swing bridge and trains will stop before they reach the swing bridge without going off the cliff. And then we'll need to install a whole lot of feeders all around the layout. So with that being said, let's get this work done. So one of the things we want to make sure we're doing is isolating the tracks leading up to the swing bridge and on the swing bridge. And that's just so we don't accidentally open the bridge while the train's running and running it off the cliff. So normally when we're hooking our track up, we'll use metal rail joiners like this to tie our rails together. And you usually, in a large layout like this, will solder at these rail joints. So in this instance, we want to isolate one side from the other. To do this, we're going to use these plastic rail joiners. And what it does is it stops the electricity from running across the rail at that joint. So this effectively isolates a section of track. So with these isolators in place, we can run the power through the micro switch to get it back into our rails here. So what I've done is I've installed these isolating joints right here. These joiners are here and here, and I've done the same on the other side. Now, because we're running two separate lines and we're going to be running DC, we need to make sure that we isolate this track from this track. So we're doing that effectively by using two different power bus lines. That keeps it separated. And where we got crossovers, we're going to use these isolators between the crossholders. So now this track and this track are isolated from each other, and these sections are isolated from each other. So this should enable us to run DC power and run two trains simultaneously on two different tracks and manage the power to our swing bridge. So quick crash course, how does a micro switch work? So it has three prongs on it. One is the common on the side. That's where we're going to put our positive wire. One prong is normally open, meaning when this is engaged, the switch is open. This side is normally closed, meaning when the switch is not engaged, it's normally on the closed. So in this instance, you got your lever side. The lever here is not engaged, so it's in the normally closed. So the power comes in, it travels to this prong over here. When you engage the switch over, now it travels from here to this prong here. So this way you can control when you have power on or off of your rail. Now we're going to get into how's this all going to come together. So here, we're going to have our switch going here. So you got in, this is the common or positive. This is our normally open, normally closed. So we're going to use a terminal block on this side. So our bus wires positive is going to come in. We're going to connect to this terminal on the terminal block. We'll come out on the terminal block here. We're going to come around and connect to the positive on the common over here. So now we don't care about this one. We're not going to hook into it because normally closed, we don't want any power happening when this is in the open position. So when the switch throws, then we want power to come through here. So we're going to come down, we're going to connect into our terminal block here, and we're going to connect several of these terminals together on this side. So now It's going to provide us several areas that we can go apply power and run these out and connect them up to the outside rail on our tracks. So this way we can have some that goes to the rail leading up to the swing bridge, and we can have some running to the swing bridge, and we'll also have another one that'll go up and over and around to the other side that'll control the power leading to the swing bridge on that side. Hey Roxy, how are we going to terminate those in so we can use the micro switches?
So now we want to talk about how we're going to terminate these wires. We've got a piece of wire here. We've got our fork spade connector. We've got our spade connector. This is a 14 gauge wire. So step one, we're going to go in here, choose the 14 gauge slot and strip our wire. So we've got that. We can twist it together. Go ahead and do the other side. Twist it together. And then first we're going to take our fork spade connector. We're going to stick it in the blue slot on our wire crimpers. Stick our wire in. Now you want to make sure you see it coming out the other side, just like so. Start squeezing that together. Until it clicks through. And then it'll let go. You see here, got it attached. You can see the wire coming out the top. So on the other end, we're gonna put our spade connector, place that in the red section. Put our wire in. Make sure we can see it coming out the top. Right here. Start squeezing in. And then make sure everything's nice and tight. And that's how we'll terminate these wires.
Okay, the way this micro switch setup is going to work is we've set the micro switches up to where when we close the swing bridge, it'll hit the lever and we'll close it. And once it closes, it'll make the switch, it'll take the power from normally open this side, it'll apply the power to this side, and this is our power in. Comes in here, closed, it flips the switch to come out there. So here we've got our positive coming in the bus line. It's going to come in here, and then it's going to come back out here, and this is what will hook up to here. So now we got power that goes to the micro switch. So now with it open, there's no power coming to here, it's all going to there. So we're going to take our other wire, we're going to hook in to this position. So now with that in place, it'll come back over to our terminal block. So now when this is closed, it applies power around into our terminal block. And then from here, we can attach wires to various track out on the swing bridge and leading up to the swing bridge on either side. And that's where this is the power going back out. This wire is going to go to the opposite side and tie in the tracks on that side for the outer for the inner loop. And then we'll tie in here for another line that'll run underneath and up here onto the swing bridge itself. So then when this is closed, it'll apply power to the swing bridge. When you open the swing bridge, the switch will cut off power. So that way we won't ever run any trains off the track. And with it engaged, we can run trains across the bridge. So here we are under the swing bridge. Now the way I wired this up is I used 14 gauge wire looping down underneath here. So it came under the timbers on this side. And the reason I did that was this way the gate will swing open and shut, and those don't move very far. So they'll never get pinched, they won't get caught on anything. So I'm bringing it up on this side is our positive lead. So the yellow is for the outer loop, the red one's the positive for the inner loop, and here's our negative terminals. And we've made these connected all through here with these tabs. So here are negatives going out and positives going out, and then we run these feeder wires here up onto our track. Now the other thing we have going is on the other side of the swing bridge. Take a look up here, and we can see another set of connections. So here, these wires here are coming in from the other side by the micro switches. And so that's providing the power. And here is our negative and positive from the bus. So here we can connect up all of our feeder wires. And this way we can power the isolated section leading away from the bridge and the rest on the other side. So this power here is controlled by these micro switches. When you open the bridge, it shuts off the power. Okay, so to get our feeders in place, first off, we need to go ahead and drill the holes we're going to feed the wire through. So in this section, I'm going to use this bit, fits right in between the two, get up next to the rail, and I can push it down through. And one on each side. Then we want to grab the vacuum. We want to clean up the debris because we don't want to leave a mess. Okay, so now we have our holes. We want to go ahead and feed our wire through, and we're using a 18 gauge solid core single strand wire. So we just take it and we're just going to poke it down through the hole. And I'll give myself plenty of slack so when I get underneath the hook up, it's easy. I'm not fighting the tension of the wire. So we're setting the red positive on the outside rail. Feed that on in. So now we're ready to go underneath the layout. Okay, so if we're looking underneath here, we have 3 bus wires running across. So the black and the red, this is for the inner loop. The yellow and the green is the outer loop. The blue and white is going to be an accessory wire for lights and switch machines and that kind of thing. So we're hooking up on the inner loop. We got our feeder wires we just ran through. We're going to use suitcase connectors. Now these connectors fit over the top of the wire. You'll fit your bus wire on this outside, and then the feeder wire pops into this other side. You'll squeeze her down on this metal piece, cuts into the wire, and then you can close them up. So it just fits one onto the red wire like this, then one onto the black wire. Then all you have to do is grab your wire, stick it in there, and make sure you hold it in tight. We're going to grab our pliers, squeeze it down. You want to give it a tug, make sure it's good and secure. Then close the little latch tab. We do the same thing on the black wire. Stick her in the hole, hold it good and tight. Squeeze it down. Give it a tug, make sure we're good. And then we just close the little tab. So there we have 2 hookups. They're all set. So now I'll come up above and I'll pull some of that slack back out. There we go. So there's our wires ready to go. Now we'll go back to the top side and see about soldering them to the track. Okay, so now we're back up top. We got our feeder wires here. We're gonna cut these off. Move these back out of the way. The strippers. We're gonna take our wire strippers. We're just gonna strip off maybe a 1/4 inch at the most. Just a small little bit. Not like that. And then we're gonna take and put some flux on there. And it's my toothpick. I like to put just a tiny bit of flux on the bottom edge of the rail here. That'll just help us flow the solder on when we get them on here. Because we want to be able to get in and out of here real fast so we don't melt ties. So next we want to go ahead and tin these. So we're going to grab our solder here. When I tin them, I like to just take and put a little tin on the tip, because then I can just grab the wire. And with the flux on there, it just flows right on. Make sure I got enough on here. We tin them up right there, it just makes it that much easier to get them to stick in. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is you want to take on the tip. You want to take just a little tiny bit of the tip, and you're going to put a bend to it. Just a nice little bend that way. So then we want this to lean into the rail. So on this one, you want to lean it towards the rail that way. So now when we slide it down here, see how it nestles right up in the little pocket of the rail. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Just the tip. And then you want to turn it to the rail. We're going to reach under here where we can grab it, slide her down. Oh, I grabbed the wrong one. There we go. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and solder it in. So we can just touch it up here. Touch our solder. Doesn't take a lot. And maybe a little more here. And then I like to reach up there and grab onto it, give it a little tug, make sure it's good and soldered in place. Now we solder the other side. This side's a little harder to do. And again, you want to reach under there and grab it. Give it a little tug. Make sure it's good and secure. Looks like we're good. So here's the command station. I got my bus wires coming through, so I have my outer loop, my inner loop comes into a terminal block. So now I've got my controllers that I can connect up directly through. So that way I can run two controllers controlling two separate tracks. So this controls the outer loop and one controls the inner loop. And I have a third one, and I'm thinking about doing the lower elevation on a separate controller. We can isolate that track as well. That might be kind of a fun project to do too. But here we go, Command Central. Well, there you go.
We laid track and laid track, got all this electrical put in. Dad's been working so hard on it all week. We're so glad to be running trains again on this layout.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when we first decided on a swing bridge and I started investigating, well, how do we make a swing bridge work? How do we do the electrical to get power to the track? And there's not a lot of good information out there. I found a few guys that have done some similar work, but it took a lot of reading and a lot of research to get a plan together. And I'm so glad that we had a plan that worked out, because this swing bridge and the power is working perfectly for us. So we're really happy to be able to share that with others, and hopefully it'll help somebody else out.
So going forward, we're excited to get to the final loop of the layout, going on to the lower elevation and around back to the top.
I can't stop looking at the trains. I'm so excited. So, in the meantime, you guys have fun running your layouts, because I sure am. Have fun working on your layouts and running your trains.
Make sure you hit the bell so you're notified of our next video.
And we'll see you all next time on Getting Back on Track with Steve
And Roxy. Bye, guys.